Hey guys, a chess match in chess.com with an American opponent with rating of 780. Let's see the match. He uses his pawn, I react with my pawn. And let's see the reaction. He uses his knight. And my reaction is to that movement is using my knight. He's using his knight. And this is the beginning of the game. There are lots of movement happening around the game, the beginning of the game. So he castles, I castle. He's bringing his rook, and I go with my knight to the next movement. So I'm waiting for his reaction. No, that was my reaction. That was my turn. I used my pawn in e5, and I'm waiting for his movement. That was a great game in chess.com. That was a live game. You can see my ID is Shahin IT68, and this is a good game in chess.com. He uses his knight in b5, and that was not a big deal. So I go to the center of the board. He took my pawn and I took his pawn. So look at my knight. He's in the better position. My knight is in e4 position and he's doing well. And I'm waiting for his reaction. Be aware that it was a live game and there would be a lot of thinking moment in the game. So he uses the bishop. The bishop comes to the d3, and I use my pawn to a6 to threat his knight to go backward. This is a not good place for his pawn, for his knight to be here. So he go backward with his knight, and this is my turn. I use my bishop to f5. A bishop to f5 I think is good movement because support my knight in the middle of the board. And I'm waiting for his reaction. So what would be his reaction? He goes back with his knights. The white knight goes to d2, and it is my turn to take his knight with my knight. Oh no, I used a black pawn movement to d4. So I'm waiting for him. He threatened my knight, and this is my turn to react with his threat. So I decided to take his knight with my knight. Yes, a knight trade in the game, and I'm waiting for his reaction. He took my knight with his queen. So my reaction, there are lots of opportunities, so I decided to go with a e5 knight. A knight to e5, and again in the middle of the board is very important. So not a pawn to e4 threatening my bishop. I came back and waiting for his reaction, and he uses his pawn. He uses his pawn to c3, a c3 pawn. So a black pawn, my black pawn goes to c5, supporting my middle pawn. If he take, I take his pawn. Yes, he takes my pawn and I take his pawn. And again, my pawn is doing well because he has a good support from my queen in d8. His bishop goes backward. I use my pawn to b5. A b5 movement with my black pawn. He comes with his pawn, and my reaction, this is my turn to react to this movement. I think a pawn to a5 is a good choice because if he take, I will take with my rook, and also my rook goes in the middle of the game. He threatened my knight with his pawn in f4, so I have to change my knight position. I'm thinking of the better position. So let's notice that this is a online chessboard that was online chessboard in chess.com, and I was recording the screen, and this is a review of that screen recorded. So that was a online chess match in the real chess.com. So let's see what happens in the game. In the live games, there are lots of thinking moments, and we have to choose better position. Making decision is very important in chess match. Okay, he decide to a knight trade, and I take knight, and look at my bishops in g7 and a bishop in e6. They are in a good position because they're both supporting my middle pawn, and this I'm waiting for his reaction. In material sense, we are both equal, but at the end of the game the result would be different. So I'm waiting for his reaction to this game. He's thinking so much. I have a better position in time. My time is a lot better for him. He has 6 minutes. I have 7 minutes 25 seconds. Finally, he came with his knight, giving me an opportunity to threaten both queen and knight with single supported pawn. So that was my reaction to this movement. So he has no choice to take my pawn or to go with queen to another place of the board. He has to move his queen or take my pawn with his bishop. He's thinking again, lots of time, thinking too much. Better choice would be taking my pawn with his bishop. Yes, he took, and I took his bishop with my pawn. And there is a great moment here. A queen trade. Look at this queen trade. He's trying to take my queen. Look at this one. Yes, he took my queen, and I took his queen by my rook. And that was a queen trade in the middle of the game. And I took his queen. And look at the unsupported b4 pawn. I can take that. Look at that pawn. b4 pawn is not supported. I can take it with my pawn. Yes, I took it. And I have slightly better material in the game. He's trying to take my bishop, but that was a wrong movement. I took his pawn, and he cannot take my pawn because the pawn is supported by a white bishop. A rook is trying to take my pawn. I support the pawn with my rook in b8. He's trying to have a rook trade. He's trying to take my rook. I take his rook, and he also is taking my rook. And I take a pawn with my bishop. That was a good reaction to that movement. Look at the game. This is the game that is changing his result. The result is changing. So I'm waiting for his reaction. I'm waiting for his reaction. What would be his reaction to this movement? Maybe a rook. A rook is coming down, maybe to support his pawn. But not a good choice because my bishop could take his rook, but I forgot to take that because it was a live match, and I could take his rook with my bishop. He's coming he's trying to change the pawn to queen. I took with my pawn, and that is the game over. But he's not surrendering. He's trying to take a draw of me. He's not surrendering. Oh, a queen. My pawn turned to the queen, and he's also in check position. He cannot turn his pawn to a queen. So he moved his king. The king is in the game. So I go a rook. Oh, a rook trade. Look at this rook trade. He's trying to take my rook, but I have a better choice. I use a c2 check for a king, and this was a tricky moment for me to make a good decision. I have to protect the pawn from becoming a queen. So look at this movement, a queen to a4. A queen to a4 is a good support for my rook. A queen to e4, yes, a queen to e4. So he cannot actually take my rook, because if he takes, I take his rook, and that is a rook trade and is not good for him because he is not in a good material in the game. So it's game over, but he's not surrendering. Yes, a rook trade happens here. He took my rook and I took his rook, and look at that pawn trying to become a queen, and the game is over. He finished the game by resigning. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video, and also share to your friends. See you in the next video.